Okay, can everyone see this?
Maybe the side is a little bit gray, but we can see the rest.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to share with you the new re-registration report. It's gotten quite a makeover this year. We've added a lot of new information, some new views, lots of new features that will hopefully make it easier for you and give you some more actionable information that is helpful. So we'll just start from the beginning here. There's two different kind of views that it gives you: an overall summary and then a subgroup data. So this is going to give you actual more numbers, and the overall summary is going to give you graphs kind of based on your whole school. So up at the top we have some filters, our grade band, FAST status, primary teacher, special education teacher, and Title I teacher. So if you use any of these filters, it will filter all of the data. So it'll filter your graph. So if you wanted to get a visual for just your E2 students or just your high school students, you could use a filter, and that's going to filter everything here. So starting at the beginning here, we have response rate, which you guys are used to. This is what we report on every year. So this is your percentage of students that have responded, which is everyone except for status unknown. The only students that are included in the metric are those that are currently active. So this is taken, just from the omnibus. So any students that do not have an enroll approved date or their school enroll date is for next year, they would not be included in this. Also, students who are in the highest grade level for next year are excluded. So if you are a K through 12 school, that's 12th grade. If you only serve K through 8, then 8th graders would be excluded. And then you'll get your overall response rate, and then broken down by status, registering, not registering, undecided, and status unknown. And down here, the subgroup that always defaults to is going to be the school. So you'll get the numbers here as well. And then this will just tell you what your total is. So down here it has all the same information. One feature I wanted to point out that I'm pretty excited about is that you can double click on any of these numbers and pull up the actual students. So if you wanted to see which students are status unknown, you could double click on the 19% or the 263, and that's going to pull up those students for you. So you have them all right there. It puts it in a new sheet, so you can just go back or you can delete this sheet. It's just a temporary sheet, so it doesn't matter. So I'm pretty excited about that new feature. It should make it easier for you. So that's the old stuff that we've always reported on. Now everything else is new. So I'm going to go through all the new things we've added. Okay, first is notes. So they talked about using those templates. If you use the note template, it will show up on here. And this will show you the number of students that have received 0 notes for each category, 1 to 2 notes, or 3 or more notes. And this is, for some schools, this might be blank if you aren't using that. You kind of have to evaluate it based on what you're expecting to see. So if you expect that all of your students who are status unknown have received a contact that has been documented with a note, then you can click on this number for your status unknown students who don't have any notes and see who they are.
Hey Amy, there's a question in the chat. That's reliant upon the KML or the note template, correct?
Yes, so, okay, so one important thing to note is this does not include, because the KML templates and the note templates are kind of different and meant to capture a different thing. So the notes are kind of a contact, a meeting that you can make contact with the parent. If the KMail is posted as a note, if just the KMail got sent out to all the registering students and was also posted as a note, that is not included in the notes number. at this time. You know, one important thing is all of this stuff could change as we get more data. There's not really much data at all for any of the schools at this point. So as we get more, we might change things around to make it more useful. On the communication detail, it will list all of your K-mails and notes, just like the ILP data that you're used to. And it will show those, but those are not included in the notes number. So the notes are specifically for the re-registration plans for school year 16-17 template. And then down here in the notes section, it shows kind of your average number of notes per student. So you can see if it's different by registering, not registering, undecided, status unknown, and double-clicking that will show the students that made up that average. And then it will also show the number of status unknown students with 0 notes, since that might be something you want to pull out separately. And if you guys have ideas of things you want to see as you use these reports, or things that would be helpful, definitely let me know that. Yes.
Yeah, Amy, this is Cody. Just a quick question. I think it's the one that Kim just put in the chat too. So just to clarify, because this was an issue with ILPs and tracking those. So if I send a K-mail or a mass K-mail to my classroom of students, and then I click on the box to say, you know, make this a note too, is it going to show up as one of your registration notes?
In this metric, no. So it will show up on communication detail, but it is not being counted. The only template counted for notes is the re-registration plans for school year 16-17. That's the only one counted for notes. All these other templates are the K-mail templates. Those are included in the K-mail section. But even if it got posted as a note as well, those templates are not included in the note metric. So yeah, if that is something that is heavily used at your school for notes, that is something we can reevaluate at a later time. But at this point, they're kind of documenting two different things, so we kept them separate. All right, information sessions. So if you use these information sessions and you use the course program of re-reg, you will start to see a percentage of your students by status who have attended the session. So that's pretty cut and dry. And then down here, it will show you just the overall percentage. It is not broken down by status here. So overall, 15% have attended a session. So if you haven't had any sessions, it'll be 100% no's here. So green is yes, blue is no. Pretty straightforward there. The K-mails, we get less straightforward as we go, so hang with me here. So the K-mails, what we looked at here was to see if the K-mails match. So ideally, you go in and everyone who's registering, you send them the registering K-mail. That makes sense. They get the template so that they get the correct communication. So then here, outside of the green, are all the ones that don't match what the current status is. This might be because they have currently changed their status, which up here above the green line is more likely the case. Because, for example, we have 15 students who were, they got a status unknown template sent, and they are now undecided. So they have responded now, but they are undecided. So it's more likely that this is a timing issue. These might be students that you want to send an updated K-mail to reflect their current status. These students down here, so below the green line, you have, it might be an error, or you might have had students that actually changed their status. So we have one student here who was this is all made up, by the way. You have one student here who was sent a template for registering, either because they were registering or someone sent them the wrong template, and they are actually at this time undecided. So that might be one you want to look at and kind of follow up on, and if they did change their status, you know, have a conversation with them about that.
Amy, it's Cody again. So if a student changes status and then, so say they're undecided, so they get the undecided K-mail, and then they change it to registering, and then they get the registering K-mail, does this report pull the most recent K-mail template that they've gotten and wipes away the other one?
That's a great question. Yes, it only pulls the most recent one they've been sent for this. Does that help? Does that answer it?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So this will kind of show you what matches, what doesn't. So the ones that don't match, they may need an updated template sent, or you might need to research them a little more. And then down here, it just shows the total number of K-mail templates that don't match, so that you can click on that and pull up all the ones that don't match at once. It's kind of helpful to filter it for you. Any questions about the K-mail? Now we're going to get into the tricky territory. So try to follow along with me, and I'll try to explain it the simplest way I can. Okay, so pulse check. So another thing we pulled in was for families that responded to the pulse check survey. There's a question on the pulse check about how likely they are to re-register. So we wanted to pull that in so we could compare that with what they actually end up doing. So on the pulse check survey, it asks them, you know, on a scale of 1 to 7, how likely are you to re-register? 1 is the least likely, and 7 is the most likely. So going up. So this graph just kind of gives a very general summary visual of what that might look like. So here are of our registering students, and then it'll show the total number up here. So we had 285 registering students answer the survey, which is much more than any other group. So we know most of our families that answered the survey are re-registering families. And most of them responded with a 6 or 7 that they were likely to re-register. And then not registering, you know, we have much more that were kind of in the middle, or they already knew that they were not going to re-register, which is what you expect. We did have a few, however, that responded with a 6 or 7 that they were likely to re-register, but they are not registering. They could have had the scale backwards, or the same with registering, or that could be a conversation we need to have. So down here, those two things are pulled out. So we have any families who responded with a 1 or a 2 that they are not likely to re-register, but they have registered, which is great. They either filled out the survey wrong or they changed their mind in a great way, and we're very happy about that. You can view those here. Or the students or families who responded that they were very likely to re-register, but they are not registering. So you can pull those students up here and kind of, you know, give them any extra attention that they need. So the undecided and, you know, an overwhelming percentage of the undecided students were in the middle, which would be expected. Status unknown. Many of them, over half, are re-registering, which, considering most of the families that answered the survey are re-registering, kind of makes sense. So this kind of gives you, you know, an overview, and then down here it will give you a few more details. It'll tell you how many responded. It also pulls in the average satisfaction rating. So that is the other question. One of the other questions on the survey is, overall, how satisfied are you? So that's just an extra bit of information we thought would be helpful. And then your average likelihood to re-register, which is a 6.0. And remember, these are on a scale of 1 to 7. And then, like I explained, the two little groups that are pulled out that are unexpected, that might be helpful to research further. So, does anybody have any questions about the pulse check? I think this can get a bit confusing because it's not a straight correlation like the K-mails. Any questions there? Okay. I don't see any questions. So a few more things. So on the subgroup data, you can change this. So it just defaults to school, which will kind of match your overall graph up here. You can change this if you want to see the numbers by grade band. So your top graphs are going to stay an overall summary of the school, but then down here, all your numbers get broken down by grade band. You can view it by FAST status, primary teacher, special education, Title I. And just as an extra tidbit, all your student information is on this student detail here. It's quite easy to add to those groupings for any category that's on here. So if there's some kind of category you'd really like to see, let me know. Those are easy to add. And then up here, if you want to hide the graph, so if you're a school and you're looking at it by teacher and you've got 200 teachers, and you have to scroll down quite a bit, you can hide the graph, and it hides the graph, obviously. But the biggest thing it does is it will change your, where it freezes the pane so that you can keep your headings as you scroll down. And then when you're done, you can unhide them, so it'll put everything back, nice. When you change the subcategory, it will reset all of your filters. So if I want to see just high school, but then I switch to school, it's going to undo all my filters and reset them. So if I then wanted to see high school here, I'd have to redo that filter. So then you have your student detail, one feature here, which a note is about up here. Anything highlighted green means that status has changed in the last 7 days, so you could filter any field if you want to see just who has recently changed their status. The date is next to, and this is all just off the omnibus, next to their status. You guys know, last change date. Here we go. It'll tell you when their status last changed. Communication detail, which will list for you every note in K-mail that uses a template just for your reference. And then there's a FAQ, which if you have some questions, they may be answered over here. One question I do want to point out, what user in the dashboard and what do these numbers mean? If you really want to dig deep and need some explanations, this will give you a lot of the directions and the explanations of each graph, as well as descriptions for each field in subgroup data. So lots of information there. And I believe that about covers it, new and improved. I love your feedback, so if you guys have any feedback, or of course if you have any problems, let me know. Thank you guys.
Thank you.